We're going to start this part by modeling the plants that surround the fountain, and the plants are made up of two different parts. There's the planter, which is an actual 3D object, and then the plant, which is an image prop. So we'll start by modeling the two different size planters. So back in my file, I'm in top plan view here. I'm just going to go off to the side and work. So we're going to create these planters with a couple of rectangles. So the first rectangle is going to be 10 inches square. That's the bottom, and then the top is 15 inches square. So I'm going to stack those right on top of each other, centered, and then we're going to do a multiple extrude, model multiple extrude of 12 inches for the shorter planter. So there's that, and then if we look at that, there's the basis of our shorter planter, and then back to top. And the taller planter has the same square dimensions, it's just taller. So I'm going to duplicate this, and then we can just change in Object Info the extrusion from 12 inches to 18 inches. And we should end up with a taller planter. To turn these into planters rather than solids, we're going to use the shell tool. So I'm going to select one of them and go to the 3D modeling tool set and find the shell solid tool. I'm going to make them ½ inch thick, 0.5. I'll click on the top and hit the check mark, and that hollows out the inside of it. So we'll just do the same thing with the other one. And now we have planters. These are copper planters. They could be anything, but copper seemed like a good choice to me. So we're going to select them both and then go to the resource manager and search for copper. And metal copper brushed is what I used. To be honest, you can make them anything you want. You know, they could be granite, they could be metal, they could be glass. Actually, I've never seen a glass one like that, but anyway, but I'm going to make them copper. So we'll double click on that. We're going to put the texture in this textures scenery folder. And now we have brushed copper. Then before we add the plants in, we need to give them some dirt, basically. So in order to do that, we're just going to extrude a rectangle at the top here. That's, it can really be any size, but let's just do 1 inch. So model extrude 1 inch. And then we'll do the same thing over here. Model extrude 1 inch. And then if we shift to front, then I'm going to place both of these just below the top of the planter. So we have that. And then I'm gonna set both of these to be to look sort of like moss. So in order to do that, we're gonna use the one of the grass textures. So if you go back to the resource manager and search for landscape grass number 2. So landscape grass number 2, RT, which is a RenderWorks texture, which is different than landscape grass 02 IF, which is an image. This is not a texture, this is just a picture. So we're going to use the landscape grass 02. We'll double click on that. We'll put it in the scenery textures folder. And then we'll discover that it looks really big. So we're going to change the scale of it in Object Info Render to 0.25. And there we have our 2 planters. Next, we will add some plants. In order to create the image props, we need textures, and here is where the textures came from. So I did a Google search for the 2 plants that we're using. This is a fan palm, and this is actually a picture of a silk or plastic fan palm. You find that when you search for specific plants, you can find lots of pictures of them, but usually they're outdoors in a landscape setting somewhere, and you have to spend a lot of time in Photoshop removing the background. If, on the other hand, you search for silk or fake plants, then often you get a nice catalog shot that's already against a white background, so it makes it a whole lot easier to edit it. So this is a Google search for a silk fan palm. I took that image into Photoshop and basically just cropped it to cut the bucket off the bottom, and also changed the background from white to blue. And the reason I did that is because some of the plant itself is white where it's shiny, and if I used white as the transparent color in Vectorworks, it would not only make the background transparent, but it would also make the parts of the plant that are white transparent. So I changed the background to a color that I knew didn't appear anywhere in the plant. So we have this Photoshop prepared image of a fan palm, and also of this banana palm. So we're going to use those to create the image props. So back to Vectorworks, we're going to do model, create image prop. I'm going to import a file. I'm going to find my file, which is tree number 2. That's the one of the 2 files you have that you can download from WebCourses. The height of this is going to be 4 feet, or 48 inches. We are going to use a mask. We're going to create that mask using this props color. And we'll say OK, and we don't have an alpha channel available this time because it's a JPEG, not a PNG, so we're going to have to tell it what color the transparent color is. And we'll just click here on the blue, and that will set the black part as transparent. And sometimes you have to adjust. If you adjust too much, it'll go away. But if you get too much blue around the edges, you can play with the contrast and the matching tolerance until you get it right. I'm going to actually call this fan palm, and we will want crossed planes because it's a tree. We're not going to do constant reflectivity. And we will create a plugin object, and we will auto rotate. So if you click OK, it enters it as it always does at the center of the drawing, which I don't believe I've ever found a way to change that default. So it's here in the general vicinity of our fountain, and it's hard to grab because I'm grabbing the fountain every time I try. So I'm just going to move it. I don't know, 25 feet up, just so I can get it away from the fountain so that I can drag it over here. So then I'm going to go to front view and place it in the planter. In front, and then we'll go to left view and of course the planters are behind the fountain. So let's try it in right view. That's better. My tall fountain is in front of my tall planter is in front of my short planter, so I'm going to grab this planter, also remembering to grab the grass that's inside of it. So 2 objects, and move it out of the way. Then I can grab the plant and bring it over, and so I may have to nudge it back down a little bit. Put it right there. Then we'll look at that in isometric and see. the plant itself, the trunk, I guess, is not actually centered on in the image prop because it wasn't centered in the drawing. So I may have to do a little finagling to get it to actually appear like to be centered in the planter. But I think that, yeah, that looks pretty good. All right, so I'm going to go back to top, and those are set. We're going to do one last thing to this, but we're going to go ahead and create the other one before we do that. So I'm just going to select all of this and move it over here out of the way. Then I can create the next plant. So model, create image prop. We want tree number 4, and we're going to call this banana plant with a P. This one's going to be 8 feet tall. 8 feet. Mask, yes. Reuse. This prop's color. Okay. Transparent color. The blue is the transparent color, and you'll notice that it's left over from last time since this is exactly the same blue. It knew that it was set already to use this blue. So we'll say okay. We're going to leave all of this the same. Okay. There it is. Now I can grab it and place it here in the center, and then we'll go to front. And oh, this one was actually pretty close. I'm just nudging a little bit. 6. Gonna nudge a little bit that way. Back to front. All right, good. So those are both almost finished. The last thing we need to do is turn them into symbols. So in order to do that, we're going to just draw a 2D rectangle that is the planter on both of them. And then we could just leave it at that. We could turn that into a symbol, and then just the planter would appear in the 2D plan. But I think I would like to just have it vaguely resemble a plant. So I could draw what the top of this plant actually looks like, or I could just steal a resource from something else, which is what we're going to do. So we're going to do a search for this. Polysticum, I think. That may not be how you pronounce that. This is a plant. It's this plant actually that's in Vectorworks, and I'm using this just because I did a search of a bunch of the plants, and this particular 2D shape seemed like it was a pretty good generic tropical plant shape to me. So I'm gonna just double click on that and insert it into the drawing. This is in fact a 2D 3D hybrid plant that has nothing to do with what we're doing. I just want to borrow the 2D part of this here. So I'm going to convert this to a group. Modify, convert to group. So now this is no longer a 3D plant. It's just just this green shape. So then I can use this as the plant shape as part of my symbol. I am going to do a little bit of editing. Since all of my 2D plans so far have been in grayscale, I'm going to go ahead and make this grayscale as well. I'm missing a piece. There it is. Okay. There we go. And then I'm going to set this to be 25% transparent. or 25% opaque. Basically, we haven't used this before, but right here where it says 100, if you click on that, you get this option where it lets you set transparency of 2D things. So there we have that. Why did it turn green? There. Now it's gray. So then I can just use that as to be the plant. So I'm going to make it not quite as large as the extent of the image prop, because some of that is white space, but so I'm going to make that one that size, and then we're going to make this one slightly smaller, because this is the smaller plant. We'll put that right there. And then we can group all this together and do a modify create symbol. And this is going to be the fan palm symbol. The reason I didn't just call it fan palm is because I've used fan palm for something else. We use that as the name of the image prop, and it won't let you use the same name twice. So we'll say OK. We're going to put this in the scenery symbols folder. And then we'll do the same thing here. Modify create symbol. This one is the banana plant. Okay. Scenery symbols. All right, so there we have our two plants. So let's look at our fountain and see where they actually go. So there's a banana plant on each of the sides and the tops, and then there's the fan palm on each of the sort of diagonals. So if we go back to our project, if we copy both of these, edit, copy, and then we double click to edit our fountain, and then paste them in. So this is the banana plant. I'm going to put that right there, and it's about that far away, I think, from the fountain. Let's actually look and see. Yeah, that's about right. Maybe slightly farther. And then I can mirror that, or I can just copy and paste it on the other sides. I'm just going to do a duplicate array. We're going to make a circular array, 3 copies, 90 degrees apart. Next mouse click, rotate duplicates. Okay. So we'll put that right there. And then we're going to take this one and rotate it 45 degrees. Rotate 45. And put it sort of there. And then we can duplicate array that one, leave all the settings the same. There. And then let's look at this from the front. Let's go into OpenGL. All right, that seems like that's what we have. If we go back to our sample, I'm not doing so well with the clicking today. That seems like that is correct as well. So there we have our finished fountain with its plants. Next, we will put some walls in. Let's just look at this. Yeah, there we have fountain, plants on floor. Just waiting for some walls. To create the walls, we'll use the wall tool to do the 4 outer walls. That will make it easier next week to insert the doors and windows into the wall. And then for the arches, we'll just draw the shape and extrude it and turn it into a symbol. And then next week we can add the molding to the symbol after we've created the arches. So let's, I'm sorry, after we've created the columns. So let's start by creating the arches. I'm gonna go to front view and start by drawing a rectangle that is 45 feet 3 and is 9 feet 6 tall. So 45 feet 3 wide, 9 feet 6 tall. And that corresponds to, it should be this distance, 45 feet 3, this space between the walls. So back to front. Then we're going to need 2 circles. We'll need one circle with a diameter of 7 feet 3. And we'll need another circle with a diameter of 7 feet 9. These are going to form the actual arches. So take the 7 foot 3 circle and align it center left with the bottom left-hand corner of the rectangle. And then move it 5 inches. And of course, all of these dimensions just came from sort of trial and error, making things lay out to fit between the walls. Then take the other circle. So this is the 7 foot 9 diameter circle. Align its center left with the center right of the other circle, and then move it 1 foot 8. Okay, and then do that. Repeat that process 3 times. So center left, center right. Modify, move 8. I guess actually you're repeating that twice for a total of 3 times. Then we're going to go back to our smaller circle. So duplicate the smaller circle, line it up center left there, and move it 1 foot 8. And we should be left with the same 5 inches on this end that we started with on the other end. And look, we are. So then we can just select all of these objects and do a clip surface. Modify, clip surface, hit delete. So that's our arch shape to be extruded. And we're going to extrude it 1 foot 8 because these are, where these intersect is a square. So model extrude 1 foot 8. Okay. Then we are going to go to top plan. Now we're going to turn this into a symbol. We're not going to do yet the 2D part of the symbol. We'll do that after we've completed some other things next week, because there's more to this that needs to be added. But for right now, we're going to turn this into a symbol, just a 3D symbol. So modify, create symbol. We're going to call this arch wall. Okay. Scenery symbols. And then we can duplicate this, rotate it 90 degrees. So left or right, it doesn't really make any difference. And then we're going to line up this. This is the arch, and then this is where the part that sits on top of the columns. We're going to line that up here, and then we're going to duplicate that and line that up here, And then we'll duplicate this one and move it to here. So you see what we're doing. We're lining up the arches so that they intersect at this point where they sit on top of the column. Then we're going to just, at least temporarily for this week, group all of this together. And move it over and put it so that it lines up, so that this part lines up with the wall there, this where the wall is going to be, which is on top of this outer band. And then this, well, I'm going to hold down Shift and drag it over so that it, whoops, lines up exactly with the edge there. And then finally, we're going to go to front. And yours may not, mine is probably in the right place. It should be 21 feet 7, sorry, above the floor. If yours isn't there, and there's no reason it would be, I have moved mine previously. Wherever yours is, hold down Shift, move it down so that the top of it corresponds to the top of the floor, and then move it up 21 feet 7. So you should have this at this point. And then finally, for the walls, we'll use the wall tool to create the 4 outer walls. So we'll go to the building shell tool, we'll choose the wall tool. We're gonna set some preferences. Our wall is gonna be 8 inches thick. Okay, and we'll start here. I'm on the wrong, I need this one. So the top control line mode, and I'm just going to trace around. And put my 4 walls in there. And then while they're still selected, the height wants to be 21 feet 7. So we should have that. And then finally for this week, let's just put in a camera so that we can see what we've done. So we'll go to visualization here and put in a RenderWorks camera. I'm just going to stick it over here in the corner. We're going to have to do some fine tuning later once we add the columns in order to actually be able to see around the column that's right here in the corner, but for now there's no column there, so that makes this very easy. So I can activate the camera view there. I'm just going to put this in OpenGL. We'll refine the view later, but that's where we should be at the end of this week. If you're curious, some of you will be able to do this next step and some of you won't, but I'm going to go ahead and put this in final rendering for a second and just see what we have. Okay, so we have shiny marble floor, we've got the fountain, we've got the plants, we've got our arches. So we're all set for this week. You should take a PDF of this view and turn it in. And then next week we will add in the doors and the windows and the columns and all of the molding. I promise that the molding is not as extensive this week as it was for the room project. There's not as much of it, but it may be more difficult because of the way it meets in the corners here. So molding is what it is. All right, so I look forward to seeing your renders of, and if you can't render this in final mode, and some of you won't be able to because this is, even though it doesn't have any light sources, it's got all the shiny marble and shiny copper. So you may very well not be able to do this rendering, but try it and see what happens. It's fine to just leave it in OpenGL. All right, thanks. See you next week. Virtually, of course. Bye.